The Americans set a goal and they said within this decade, 10 years, by 1970, they're going to send people to the moon. Everything was thought of towards the end goal. So you don't follow your dreams, you don't follow your heart, your relatives or your friends. You follow the truth. At no time during the day is anybody ever objective. The most important thing you could do about this is decrease the volatility of your emotions. Before you solve your confidence problems, before you solve your kids' problem, before you solve your relationship problems, you need to solve your human growth hormone problem. Statistics say it's the best predictor, and you should not be afraid to follow it, because you choose to follow anything else, it's worse.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dimitar Kirchev. With me is Mr. Nikolay Stoykov, and this week's episode is going to be about the right resolve.
Hello, Mr. Kirchev, and hello to our lovely audience. Happy you're sticking with us, hopefully.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, and yes, we're going to be talking about the right resolve. What do you think about that, Mr. Kirchev?
Well, today and yesterday, you gave me a brief description of what we're going to go through, and it was, shall I say, mind-blowing?
Usually it's mind-blowing, but just for you. Right. No, it might be mind-blowing. Right. The important thing is to keep in mind is we're all born with errors. And those errors are pretty obvious early on. And one of the errors, if you happen to be born a man, is the chess game between your penis and your brain. And those are one of your shortcomings, and those things come time and time again, and people think they've resolved it or solved it or somehow settled it. But in reality, many of our shortcomings are a progressive disease, which means they will not go well, or they don't improve with time on their own. I really thought about it, and my pattern where I look at things, I look at through the prism of Buddhism, and Buddhism doesn't say anything about right resolve. So, but it does leave room for personal interpretation and something we could add. And we're gonna talk about it. So there is no right resolve in Buddhism. There is nothing like that. So in that particular sense, it's kind of but I'm entitled to a personal opinion, and I think there is such a thing as right resolve, and I'll tell you what it means. Maybe we're gonna start with I was watching a very interesting documentary, which I think is a really good introduction to the right resolve. It was depicting the space race between Soviet Union and the Americans that happens in the 70s, and in the 60s. And the Soviets surprised the world and the US by launching Sputnik, and apparently they were ahead in the space race. But Americans set a goal, and they said within this decade, 10 years, by 1970, they're going to send people to the moon. And in the original design for that goal, which was 10 years ahead at the time, everything was thought of towards the end goal. So there were intermediate goals that needed to be achieved in order to land on the moon. But all those goals were subjugated to eventually helping them land people on the moon. Soviets did things differently. They also want to land people on the moon, but the goals that they were trying to achieve in between were also important. And sometimes they were more important than landing people on the moon. And they said, the documentary maybe said that there was like a decree by the Communist Party that by such and such anniversary of Soviet Union October Revolution, such and such kind of thing should be done in space at all costs. At all costs. So people were prioritizing short-term goals, achieving short-term goals, and those short-term goals are much more important. If they weren't achieved, I guess there could be a repercussion. People shot, kind of like fired, moved around, and the end goal was never as important as achieving the intermediary goal. That created friction and a few problems. And the main problem is the Americans said, if you're going to go into the moon, we want all our kind of contractors to be trusted, to actually do their own testing. And they selected 4 or 5 subcontractors that they did all the work, or majority of the work. As a comparison, the Soviet Union didn't do this exclusivity, and the priority was achieving the goals, and many of the technological kind of, I guess, rockets or equipment that was needed to achieve their goal were never sufficiently or totally untested. And this is all fun and games when they were all competing for kind of closer Earth orbit, until it got to the point that you need to send people to the moon. And it turns out that the rocket that needs to send people to the moon needs to be much bigger than the rockets that would send people in just orbit around the Earth. And this is where the problems of the Soviet approach, where achieving intermediary goal was more important, or at least equally as important as the end goal, kind of backfired. And while Americans experienced kind of problems themselves, like the first Apollo crew burned, basically the rocket exploded. All the subsequent flights succeeded, except for like flight 13, which was a near tragedy, but it was salvageable. What happened with the first rocket that was launched from the Soviet side, it basically exploded 9 minutes into its launch, and this was not unexpected. They're expecting problems. The problem was that the second launch also was a failure, but it was a failure 9 seconds into the launch, and totally destroyed the launching pad of the Soviet program, according to that documentary. But it seems like it's true. Push them back 1 year to kind of be able to reconstruct it. I guess they didn't have an alternative launching pad, which is not surprising given how the Soviets operating. And during that 1 year that they were trying to recover their launching pad, the Americans put 23 people on the moon. And it turns out that the Soviets didn't really want to put people on the moon. They wanted to put people on the moon first. And even after that, the recovery, they started sending the rocket again, and it continued to experience problems. So the allegory here is we are born with like deficiencies, and the resolve to solve those deficiencies comes only after experiencing subsequent and quite dramatic tragedies in our life. You would experience failure even if you were not born with such deficiencies. But since you're born with such deficiencies, the probability that you experience something as dramatic as the Soviets, during their space race years, is probably 100%. In my experience, it is 100%. So the question becomes, when will you experience those strategies, rather than if you will, In my experience, if you live long enough and you don't kind of die in a car crash or something like that, you experience such life-changing, dramatic events. And only then the resolve usually occurs. This is my experience. It probably is not necessary to be that way. So, and this is maybe the episode, and we're trying to see if that's true. Theoretically, it doesn't need to happen. Practically happens, but theoretically, it doesn't. Theoretically, it doesn't. Hopefully, this would be useful. First, let's start with the deficiencies. What are your deficiencies, Mr. Kirchev?
I would not like to talk about mine.
Oh, you're perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Kirchev might be perfect. That's certainly possible, but I'll tell you the deficiencies of most people. This is an evolutionary thing. So the first deficiency that really happens is you're absolutely never objective. This is very obvious. One of the favorite examples is many versions this is done. A group is kind of split in two, and one part of the group is given iced tea, and the other side of the group is given hot tea, and they asked to describe like a certain painting or a picture. And the people that were given the iced tea describe it in cold emotions.
The exact same picture.
Yeah, the exact same picture. And the people that were given hot tea describe it in a little bit more hot. So you never experience things totally on their own. There's always some sort of like a context, and clearly that context determines your view of how things are. One of the clearly ways I usually joke about is, if you really need to go to the bathroom, can you really be calm? We will be patient for people to exit the elevator if you really need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, most likely not.
Most likely not. Yeah. Right. So you'll be jumping and so forth. It's normal. This is normal. But the important thing, you observe it in extreme, but the important thing is to realize that this is one of your biggest shortcomings, is that you're actually rarely objective, and practically at no time. At no time during the day is anybody ever objective. The most important thing you could do about this is decrease the volatility of your emotions, but that subjectivity will always stay with you. So in that particular sense, this is something you could manage, but probably would never fix, just because your nervous system is like that. So yeah, but we'll go to that. The second deficiency for most people, except for Mr. Kirchev, of course, who is perfect, is the attraction to the guilt, which means I first see all the negativity. I see the negative traits in people. I see when something changes, I determine first thing I see if the change, what is going to be bad for. It's only then, after some time, I acknowledge or may acknowledge, it's not clear that you acknowledge it at all, what the change is good for. It's only after observing the bad traits of people that I potentially could observe their good traits. As a pattern, this is true for practically everybody all the time. There are exceptions where sometimes you fall in love with something, but in general, the attraction to the guilt, kind of finding faults, is one of your natural attractions. These things varies with people in different age. We'll speak briefly why that is, but this is one of your deficiencies. And final deficiency is you have attraction to rushed judgment. This is, again, some sort of we can speak about why this is evolutionary correct. Rush judgment occurs because you didn't have much time to decide if the food you found is good or not. So if you find some sort of an animal dead on the road. If you are like, I don't know, 10,000 years ago, you didn't have really that much time to decide if you want to eat it or not. So you smell it, you look at it, but if you don't eat it, somebody else is going to come and eat it. So you really need to make decision fast. So first one, it's impossible for your nervous system to be completely objective. It's like, things are kind of always percolating. So the idea that you could be completely objective living in this world, this is probably impossible. So this is not a fault of necessarily your kind of nervous system. This is just probably impossible. Attraction to the guilt is a necessarily evolutionary step to overestimate kind of danger. The people that underestimating danger, they're gone. They didn't survive. The people that are overestimating danger learned about it and potentially could lower their kind of level of alertness. But people that underestimated things didn't survive. So
that's where attraction
to the guilt yes.
comes from.
Yeah, it's probably people are more motivated by pain or potential for pain than gain or potential for gain. So pain is more motivating, and people that overestimated the potential for pain prepared better for it, and they survived worse than expected outcomes. And this is kind of like it's an evolutionary bias. People that underestimated the negativity, they didn't survive. But the problem becomes is like, if you never really learn the proper way of alertness, you can overestimate things and be inefficient in your actions and, decisions, maybe. And the kind of like the rush to judgment is something that's probably is going to change, but this comes with the idea of a really short life expectancy. So this is kind of like, it turned out it was optimal at many different stages, but as like, life expectancy, as we said in a previous podcast, increased by, doubled in the last 200 years, this rush to judgment is a very big deficiency that it's kind of like absolutely unnecessary. And this is like, one of the core things we're going to work on. So it's like, first one, it's very difficult to be objective. Second one is like, overestimating danger could actually be potentially right. But the rush to judgment is totally unnecessary. And this is the one that we're going to focus on in particular. How do you like that?
Okay, so the first two, depending on the situation, might be good or bad, but the last one is actually bad. And it needs to be fixed.
It has serious drawbacks. It has serious drawbacks, and it's the key to kind of like correcting the other ones. Yes, it's key to correcting the other ones. It's like the other ones may not be easily corrected because they're very strong in your nervous system, but the last one is not as strong, and it allows you to make adjustments. It allows you to make adjustments.
Okay, how have you done that?
How have you done that? All right. Yes. The truth becomes is something like this. The easiest thing to do is to basically what they call renunciation, or just what they call it in Buddhism, they call it awaken the Buddha within. The allegory here is that it's as if you're an actor and you're playing Buddha. The problem becomes is that the right resolve is people try to do all those kind of like solutions to fixing different things. But what always stays is the kind of logic is like, Mr. Stoykov, can you recommend me some sort of technique I could do, I don't know, for half an hour, a day, and that solves my problem. And the answer to that is that has never worked and it will not work because it's you. You're always going to bring those kind of negativities, and the easiest solution is for you to follow somebody, to like totally embrace like a teaching. And we're going to be speaking about the law of large numbers. This is a problem that has plagued generations of people for millennia. And over the years, law of large numbers says that given enough time, eventually people discover the truth about any phenomena, independently and in large numbers. And I take this as like, you need to base your life on some sort of like one of the three major religions, Christianity, Islam, or Buddhism, because they're the oldest and most followed. There could be other teachings which are also like, good or like, could work, but they have not been as widely as accepted. So the first one thing becomes is like you need to base your life on one of those teachings, and the teachings or decisions on your life should be based on the fact that how close you could get to the embodiment or the standard for that person. And and I've chosen Buddhism as a sort of a standard for various reasons. The first one reason is we'll talk about like Buddhism is a lot more benign in terms of its approach to how you accept it, in the sense that like if you're not ready to accept certain aspects of Christianity and Islam, that could potentially make you a bad Christian or bad Muslim. If you're not ready to accept certain aspects of Buddhism, that does not make you a bad person. Moreover, it invites that scrutiny. It really says that, like, put no head above your own. It means that if you decide to do something, you don't hide behind a book. You don't hide behind some sort of a commandment. You don't hide behind your parents, how you've been raised, how you've been trained, how people taught you. Those are all excuses. You do something because you think it's the best thing to do. So if God descends from heaven and tells you kill everybody on earth, if you decide to kill them, that would be because So in Buddhism there's no God, or at least we don't believe that there is necessarily a God. We can't be sure. But even if he descends from heaven and tells you to kill everybody, you should only do that if you think this is the best thing to do.
It's not like believing in God, it's like following the teachings of somebody.
That's right. So it's like, accepting the truth in your own personal life. So you don't follow your dreams, you don't follow your heart, you don't follow, I don't know, your relatives or your friends. You follow the truth. And if you don't choose not to follow the truth, tragic events going to continue to happen. Tragedy could happen if you continue to follow the truth, but tragic events for sure, or serious tragic events for sure will happen in your life if you do not. And the first one we want to introduce again this law of large numbers and how Buddhism kind of tries to accept it. So first one we're going to say is that the example I like to give is the one, let's say, imagine that you are in a mood to eat, a cheeseburger with fries. What do you say about that, Mr. Kirchev?
Sounds decent.
Not decent. A lot of people feel like. You're aware that there are specialists that they say processed food, especially like burger and fries, is really bad for you. So here you are. Who are you going to believe? You're going to believe yourself, or you're going to believe like what the scientists say? And the scientists say you should be eating uncooked food. So that means raw nuts and salad, maybe something like that. With a little bit of cheese. Maybe that's what's really healthy for you. There's 10,000 ways to like arrive at the truth. And the reality is maybe salad is and with some cheese maybe the best thing for you. But the reality, you're in the mood for burger. So why don't we shake hands at grilled salmon with potato salad? What do you say about that? Do you like that?
It's not a burger, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Right. I mean, the reality is you don't need to be perfect. You just need to make steps in the right direction. Just need steps in the right direction. Yeah, it's like, you know that kind of like, food is like, very important. And the idea is not necessarily to be all the time taking like, the food, the right direction. But yeah, this is the idea of the middle way. This is the idea of the middle way. And people do things backwards. They want to fix big things first. I want to fix the relationship with my wife. I want to fix my career. I want to like fix the relationship, I don't know, with my children or like relatives. I want to fix like, make a lot of money and stuff like that. Those are big, big goals. You should try to get into the habit of fixing things in general and start with a small one. So this is like, inverse of what people do. Is like you should focus on your daily habits. On your daily habits first, and then the big results. And this is very, very important because like, the outside event or the big goals that you do depend on many other things, and they may not be sustainable or like difficult to achieve. But your daily habits, changes in your daily habits, in what you do, is absolutely in your control. You're not addicted to cheeseburger and fries that much. Even if you choose to do it once in a while, let's stick with like, I don't know, like grilled salmon and potato salad. We're gonna go at the core of what is wrong with you, and why this is really important. What is going to fit, like, you have an idea of like what things are, but in reality this is like a very rudimentary idea, and if you accepted many of those things just because everybody accepts them, but in reality they're untrue. What really occurs is there is this gland. It's really, really small, apparently, gland, and I hope I pronounce it well. It's called pituitary gland. It's somewhere deep inside your skull, and it's a very, very important gland. It releases human growth hormone and oxytocin, as well as all kinds of other things. And just to give you an idea of what human growth hormone feels like, a human growth hormone is something that is produced easily in kids. It peaks at around the late 20s, maybe early 30s, and then consistently goes down. And human growth hormone is responsible for your recovery, your replacement of clearly of tissues, and it's a very good balancer of your moods. So what happens if you are deficient in human growth hormone and oxytocin, all the kind of hormones released by that particular gland, the side effect of that is sudden, unexplainable urges. Do you know what that feels, Mr. Kirchev? Sudden, unexplainable urges to do something. Yes. So at the core of many of our shortcomings is actually this deficiency in that gland. Apparently, especially the human growth hormone, is 70% of it is released at night. And this is where the biggest buck for your effort goes. Before you solve your confidence problems, before you solve your kids' problem, before you solve your relationship problems, you need to solve your human growth hormone problem. Because all the solutions that you think you need to do is fix like relationship with your wife and so forth. It's just an idea that you think is going to cure you because this thing annoys you. But in reality, you are annoyable because you have deficiency in your gland release. And while the usual trigger for this annoyance could be your wife, even if that relationship becomes perfect, something else will annoy you, usually your neighbor or a colleague. How do you feel about that, Mr. Kirsi?
Okay, but you're saying that 70% of that is being recovered, regenerated
Yes.
at night
Yes.
during the sleep.
Yes.
So that's where the importance of tracking our sleep
Yes.
is.
Yes, this is the importance of tracking your sleep and to know how long you've been in deep sleep. And this is very strange how this lack of sleep works. Like if you sleep well and if you don't sleep one day well, you do have some reserves. But 2-3 days of bad sleep, you're gonna feel this kind of lack of discipline, or like lack of. Yeah, you're gonna lack discipline and you're gonna be emotional. So yeah, you might be subject to urges. As again, we've covered this in gross elements, many of those things. So like those are part of the solutions, but this is gonna be not enough. So there's still gonna be some adjustment that we're gonna be talking about the right resolve. And that are absolutely necessary. The first adjustment that we will talk about is, again, everything arises out of this law of large numbers. Many people that have continuous and long exposure to certain phenomena, they become specialists to it. So it's like, by being interested or vested interest in that phenomena, long exposure, many of those people will become kind of expert. The first thing we want to observe is kind of absorb this, how this percolates in our life. So the law of large numbers suggests that since people are not buying cars very often, what comes as a common wisdom in terms of like what car should buy, what car you shouldn't buy, may be incorrect. And the people that actually have expertise are probably the car experts. I don't know, mechanics, car salesmen, people that grade cars. I really like caredge.com. So like I've come to believe that caredge.com is really, really comprehensive source where you could get a lot of information, not just about the cars when new, but in any kind of shape, how, like, depending on the mileage and how old they are. Anyway, case in point is like, we have a common acquaintance, we're not going to say who, that likes Range Rovers. And this is the conversation that we had with him. I pointed out to him the Range Rover is going to expected to lose between 70 and 75% of its value if bought new after 5 years.
70, 75.
Yes, in 5 years, according to caredge.com, Range Rover
It's a lot
is going to lose 70 to 75%. And it has rating D-. They rate it just like grades in college. And Lexus RX was, losing, 35, 40%, something like that. So half the depreciation, and Lexus RX costs half the price. So I accused him of being insane.
Okay.
And told him that he should buy Lexus. And then he told me that he doesn't like how the Lexus looks and he likes how the Range Rover looks. And I accuse him of being an infantile child and that he'll get used to it. The reality is like where we shake hands. So you like Lexus and you like Range Rover, and the experts say that's really bad, and the experts really like Lexus, but you don't like it. You shake hands at buying an old Range Rover. You buy a 5-year-old Range Rover for 25% of the new price of new one, and you receive 80% of the car. That's if it's still residual life. Isn't that a good deal?
Am I missing something here? How could it be a good deal?
Well, you're getting Range Rover, but at 25% of the original price after 5 years with low
Okay, when it comes to depreciation, okay, I don't want this to turn into a car talk, but warranty, fixes, maintenance costs.
That's where we're shaking hands.
It's a bold type of.
Yes, it's a risky move. It's a risky move, but the person doesn't like Lexus. What can you do?
Get a Toyota. I don't know.
He likes Range Rover. Again, like, let's get close. How much you could lose? Like, it's going to be potentially it's going to be maintenance cost. That's going to be the kind of like the. But the most important thing, you're avoiding the big depreciation. So maintenance costs could be a problem, and if you have like a good service mechanic, means maybe this could be mitigated, and it's going to be annoyance and some sort of like a cost. But the big hit
Is the depreciation.
depreciation.
Buying
So
a
we
new
just
car is being.
yeah. So this is the middle way. So it's like this is what you want, and there's what the experts say.
Oh, but he actually wanted a brand new Range Rover.
He wanted a brand new Range Rover. So it's like we shake hands.
But does he feel good about the used Range Rover?
Yeah, he got used to it.
Okay.
Much faster than he would have gotten used to a new Lexus.
Lexus, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, we're middle way.
Middle way, yeah.
Yeah, middle way. We're going to be speaking about something else, like about Miss Daniel Staub, we spoke about her. This is an American celebrity that's been married 3 times and engaged 26 times. And my interpretation of those facts is that there's no way I'll come ever near Mr. Staub, but let's assume you have a common friend that's, I don't know, much younger and experienced than you, and he really wants to date Mr. Staub, Miss Staub and Daniel Staub, and wants to, like, I don't know, see if she's a different person. The most important thing is to understand that the law of large numbers says that people get engaged after 2 years, 2 to 5 years marriage, or marry after 2 to 5 years. The most important thing is not necessarily to avoid Miss Daniel Staub, which what I would probably do, but to structure the relationship such that you don't get engaged very early. Clearly, if she's 50 years old and has been married 3 times, and one of the times she's married for 10 years and already engaged 26 times. It means
26 times prior to being married? Or?
Yeah, 26 times prior to being married, which means that she must be getting engaged within the first 6 months, and certainly the first year. The most important thing is to say, like, okay, I'll be in a relationship with you, but we're not going to get engaged the first year and a half. So again, we're going for what you want and what experts say, and where we could shake
Where we could shake hands, yeah.
Where we could shake hands.
Where's the middle?
Where's the middle?
Okay.
Where's the middle? And this is like the idea of like the middle way. So it's like, there's things that people tell you that are probably really good, but you don't feel like doing them at all. And the important thing is to let's kind of like negotiate, see how we can move it. Let's make it a little bit of fun. The most important thing is on many of those transformations is to find what they call the light. On Buddhism, they call it the nebula. And let me give you an example of the light. Mr. Kirchev really liked that example. This is like a real example that happened, I don't know, 7 years ago, something like that. Yeah. Before COVID. Definitely happened before COVID. Something like 7 years. So me and a trader that's one of the older traders are going for dinner on the trading floor and going for, juners. We're going for juners. And anyway, he orders like his junior, and it's my turn, and I go to the salesperson And he's asking me, do you want everything on? And I said, yes, everything on. He says, what about chili sauce? He says, yes, please, if I may. And he kind of, as we're preparing, like, my food, he kind of stopped and looked at me and said, of course you may. Why wouldn't you? I said, well, everything is better if you say, if I may. For example, you could say, I want to fuck you in the ass. If I may. It doesn't sound so bad. And
If I may.
And the trader is like, virtually like losing his shit. He's like, totally like choking on food and laughing. And the guy that's preparing my food is like dead serious. He looks at me and says, but I don't like it. Women have offered me, but I don't like it. I said, nobody likes it. Women don't like it. We don't like it. But the important thing is not if you like it. The important thing to know is you could.
If you may.
If you may. It's just like, doesn't mean you will. It's that you may. And I use may all the, if I may, relatively often. And yeah, sometimes I don't know. Last time I used it, it was like I was asking for croissant and latte, and the young barista asked me if I wanted to wait for the brandly baked croissants instead of the older ones that were basically still. I said, if I may. And she's like, yeah, of course you may. The important thing is we don't realize it, but in this kind of mentality, when you're kind of humorous or feeling humor, you're feeling this kind of contradiction. That's kind of like, what is humorous is a little bit contradictory. It's always a little bit contradictory, it has dual meanings and so forth. And what we're trying to point at is that you're trying to divide the world, your life, your acquaintances and events to good and bad events. And the reality is there's no such thing. So something may appear to be good only to have bad consequences later. And something may appear to be bad only to have good consequences later. This is always going to be the case, or practically all the time. And by being excessively serious about it, you will make a mistake. You will make a mistake. When you are light on your feet, just like that, laughing about this, you're actually really, really rational and looking to replicate this kind of joke in our life, in our explanation of the world, and explanation of events in the markets. But this lightness needs to be there. This lightness needs to be there. You're not going to become a good trader if you just experience this lightness. You need experience of trading. But without this lightness, experience will not be enough. Experience will not be enough. And we're going to go on a few examples of how we find the lightness in our kind of life, and different examples that I feel that important. Do you think I was clear, Mr. Kirchev?
Oh yeah, quite.
All right. All right. So the first, we're looking for joke. We're looking for joke. We're looking for joke in all our endeavors. And let's see how we can find a joke with real examples. This is a real example. I have a summer house, and this one of the times I was in the summer house, I went to the supermarket, and there was this woman. I don't know, she must have been late 20s. She was with pink shorts and pink tank tops, and she was ordering her, I don't know, items on the belt very slowly. It was very annoying to me. I would have done it faster. I wasn't really rushing for anywhere, but it was just annoying that she was doing it one milk, one cookie, I don't know, one bread, so forth. It really kind of annoyed me. Then I paid attention that actually she had like a really good ass. Do you like that? Oh, do you think most people like that? I mean, I know you're perfect.
I'm perfect. I don't have such weaknesses, but yeah, most guys would like that.
Right.
They wouldn't mind the.
Yeah, you wouldn't mind that. I also noticed that she didn't have any bra, so I could see the nipples. Now you have something moving in your pants. Yes, we're talking about like the chess game between like, your penis and your brain. And we're looking for humor, how we could solve it. Because clearly, with logic, this is unsolvable. Right?
Yeah.
Right. The first one is maybe a little bit of background. Like, the reason why you're so kind of, I don't know, focused on women's breasts and nipples is because this is a very important part of your life when you were a child, when you were breastfed by your mother. You don't remember it, but your body actually remembers it. So when you see women's breasts, and especially women's nipples, something will immediately attract your attention because this is very tasty. Situation, very good for you. A lot of good things are released in mother's milk. The intelligence of that memory is as close to the intelligence of a dog that brings you a frisbee at 11 o'clock at night wanting to play. So the important thing is to realize not to get angry. Important thing is not to get angry. You have a nervous system that is imperfect, but you wouldn't get mad at the dog, and you shouldn't get mad at the nervous system. And you should. There's probably 10,000 things you could say to your nervous system that will make this kind of humor be better. And what I said to myself, my nervous system is. Sucking on this woman's nipple might be actually good, but this is how you get arrested as well. Virtually your nervous system focuses on the nipple and forget that if you actually do that, you'll get arrested.
Yeah.
So the important thing is just to add it. So like, oh, you want to do that? This for sure will be funny, but you'll get arrested. And just to do it over. So there are many things people say is like, I wanna, I don't know, unbutton that blouse or lift that skirt and kind of like, I don't know, spank that ass potentially. This is invariably is going to be actually pleasurable. What's going to be not pleasurable is that you probably will get arrested for sexual assault. The important thing is whatever you choose to say, it needs to be funny. It needs to be funny. It needs to be funny because when you're in that particular state of mind of funniness, you actually do have a choice. You do have a choice. You do have a choice. I'm not going to lie to you. This is going to work better if you sleep well, and if you speak well, and if you eat well, and if you exercise well. That's another thing. But eventually it comes up to actually facing the challenges. So all those activities outside of the challenges are going to be helpful. But at some point you finding consistently the joke in every situation, or kind of the light, gives you the freedom to do the rational thing. You shouldn't be you shouldn't be playing with the nipples with that woman potentially. I should. We know that.
But what if?
But what if? Yes. All right. So this is another funny thing to do. Let's go into cigarettes. You see all those kind of packets. They show those pictures. Clearly, people being rationally informed about the dangers of something that they're addicted to is not enough to change their behavior. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
So what could we possibly say to people that are about to smoke a cigarette so that it's funny?
Because
There are 10,000 ways to be happy. Are you sure you explored the other 9,999 ways to be happy? This clear way will make you happy. But at any given time, there must be 10,000 things that could make you happy. Are you sure you explored the other 9,999 ways? It's clearly not going to work with everybody, but it's a different approach, and we've clearly reached a point where just presenting the facts to people doesn't change behavior. And doesn't change behavior because they're having some sort of a human growth hormone, or this pituitary gland is not releasing enough hormones, and you're just trying different things to bring your level of hormones up. But in reality is if you do find a joke in any given moment, or in majority of the moments, that's going to be very good. It's going to be very good. Yeah, it's going to be very good. And this is the middle way. We go into really the stock market, and the reality is people choose their stocks rather randomly. You like certain stocks, so why do you like it? Because the defense sector is going up. I don't know. Why you like Rheinmetall? Because Europe is about to spend more money on metal, you lack a consistent kind of framework, and we're going towards what I like, what you like. What about the law of large numbers? What do people like? And the law of large numbers says that analysts, or their analyst rating, is what probably is a good matrix of what people should like or not like. And are you seeking alpha from any of those things? And they rate it. So if an analyst rating has strong sell, this is 1. If an analyst rating is a sell, is a 2. If an analyst rating is a hold, is a 3. If analyst rating is a buy, is 4, and strong buy is 5. And they average all the analysts for the last 90 days, and they arrive at a score between 1 and 5, and you could rank them. So certainly analysts ranking those stocks and using that ranking to order them surely is a good way to start. And people say, oh, I like this stock, and this stock is top 100 out of 3,000 stocks that are rated. I don't know, maybe 1,000. So it's a good stock, but is it the best? So it's the best according to you. But
may not be according to the analyst.
Right. Now we're going to finally my favorite example, and then I'm going to give you Mr. Kirchev, is how to watch basketball, NBA basketball. I really have not watched it this way, but this year I plan to watch NBA basketball the following way. So the reality we'll go into this is I have the unfortunate to become New York Knicks fans, and because I don't know, when I got first to New York Knicks team was actually very good. For the next 20 years, they proceeded to absolutely destroy any kind of joy you had, watching basketball, because they're always losing. Not as bad as Philadelphia 76ers, but pretty much a doormat everywhere. This year is actually one of the years that is exemption, and they actually have a good team. So this year is good. But this is the idea behind this. I got this idea by something like watching March Madness. So when you're having the March college basketball, it's pretty common to fill up a bracket. So you have your favorite team, and you have your favorite team going to whatever you want, but you need to predict other teams. that are not in your group. So you need to predict group plays. And you become a fan of other teams so that you score the best result out of all your colleagues and you get the pool of the money. So suddenly, college basketball, like, the March Madness tournament, forces you to like choose naturally to become fan of other teams. So you'll be, I don't know, I was a fan of Syracuse, like basketball, but naturally during the kind of like the NCAA tournament, you become rooting for, I don't know, North Carolina, you'll be rooting for UCLA, and so forth. So you become naturally. I figure that the best way to watch a sports event would be the way the parents of Venus and Serena Williams were watching the daughters play tennis. Apparently, a young audiences not necessarily know who Serena and Venus Williams are. Those were like two African American tennis players, professional tennis players that are highly ranked, and it happened once in a while they'll play a final for a tournament where they play each other, and they're kind of like parents. When one of them scores, parents rise up, clap. When the other comes and scores, they rise up and clap. And this is a good way to watch a sports game because you're a fan of both teams. I mean, like, you may have one more favorite than the other, but in general, you try to be pretty even. And then you enjoy the game. Wouldn't you say so? Because you don't feel the pressure to like push for anything. How about then, like, we go in and use the law of large number and say, okay, so you're a fan of New York Knicks and that's not going to change. Law of large numbers says that they're fans of other teams. Why don't you become a little bit fans of other teams? Especially the Oklahoma City Thunder, which are favored to repeat. And maybe you don't become the same amount of fan of New York Knicks, but just get to know the Oklahoma City. See who the players are, what's their history. Maybe watch a few games of Oklahoma City and then become like, a little bit fan of New York City, of Oklahoma City. This way, if New York gets taken out of the playoffs, you have another team to root for. You like that?
Yeah. Depends. I like it. I like the idea of that because I'm not a die-hard fan of any sports team.
That's right. But the reality is, like, the important thing is to realize that when people bet on other teams, that this is really possible. Yeah. So they were fan of their own school of choice. But by betting on the brackets, they suddenly get to know other teams and begin to root for teams that they didn't even know. Just because
you're going to win money.
Yeah, and this happens en masse. So this means that this is really possible. So it's like, it doesn't really happen often. It only happens during the NCAA tournament, but it seems like a very common phenomenon. And practically everybody becomes like a fan of random team, virtually random team. You've never liked it or disliked that team. You've known it. It's probably a good team, but suddenly like it's in that bracket and you need to predict that bracket and you have it going all the way. You start rooting for that team. Yeah. So you become... wouldn't that be a fair way to trade? So now you have your favorite. You have your position.
Okay.
But let's become a fan of the opposite. So let's say you're long. Let's get to know the short.
The short.
Let's learn what they're thinking about. Let's root for them.
Maybe we're going to be rooting for them. Yeah.
A little bit. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. We start with the idea that your team is the best and you never research the other team, but the other team could win. The other team could win. And you dehumanize the other team, you know nothing about the team, they are monsters, you whistle them, but they could win. Let's learn before the game about the people. Who are those people? Let's learn their story. Clearly we're not going to be as big favorite of them, but
they could win.
They could win. And yeah.
Interesting.
Right. Right. The most important thing is the different patterns of behavior, and not necessarily to root against your position, but to respect the opposition. This is a very interesting times, and it's very interesting times, and really think that this is a very good way to actually just respect what other people say. For example, I clearly think that the U.S. policy could have used the law of large number when it comes to federal interest rates. So we have a history of not just mistake potentially Mr. Powell that is made, but where kind of people in power or in position where it could influence the monetary policy, like Mr. Powell, make decisions about the future of inflation and interest rates based on their own model. And law of large numbers says that the model is not so good. And looking back, you could say that in 2021, the market clearly said that break-even inflation, what the market suggested inflation was at a record high. So before the COVID, markets were implying 1.5% inflation. And after 2021, markets started implying 2.5% inflation a year for the next 5 years. And this is when Mr. Powell said inflation is transitory. Clearly, my interpretation of this information is that inflation was not transitory. Shifting forward back now 5 years or 4 years, he's afraid inflation would return when inflation expectations based on the break-even rate are clearly stuck at 2.5% a year for the next 5 years, and they're unchanged for the last year. So the effects of Trump's tariffs are not expected to have significant impact for inflation over the 5 years.
Yeah.
So Mr. Powell is afraid that this is going to happen. But market is clearly saying law of large numbers is that's not going to be not. And this is where it comes following the truth. There's what you believe, there's what you dream, there's what you feel, what you're afraid, what other people tell you, and there is the truth. And those are not one and the same. Yeah, so what Mr. Powell thinks or feels, statistics say that it's probably incorrect. That break-even rate, statistics say, is the best predictor. And you should not be afraid to follow it. Because you choose to follow anything else, it's worse. Of course, break-even rate predicting power is not unlimited, no 100%. But anything else you use is wrong. It's worse. Anything else you use is worse.
Yeah, I remember very well. You said that in 2021, that the 5-year inflation is most likely not going to change, and it didn't.
Yeah.
So it's not what I think, it's not what I believe, it's not what I manifest.
Right. No. You follow the truth, and this is the whole thing. The right resolve comes with you incrementally come closer and closer. But the reality is we start with the small habits. We start with the small habits instead of looking for the big results, and we're shifting forward towards more favorite. And again, it's not you being ideal; it's where you shake hands. And this is the idea. There are many interesting implications of that. Is, for example, if you assume that role in terms of what's the middle way, what minorities think of either phenomena should be ignored. So, for example, I was doing some sort of other podcast, and I had done some sort of given a very bullish kind of like view on China. So this is like the whole history of it. So I took a very big risk. So basically I started buying China. At the time I started recommending China, I was 5% loss on my China position. And I was really talking up Alibaba, which was, I was down 10% at the timing. And I'm still
Oh, really?
talking it. The podcast gets recorded. By the time it gets edited, like, a week and a half past, gets posted. I'm kind of breaking even or maybe up like a little bit on my position. So there is a big turnaround during those like 10 days. In the next, I don't know, month, there is like the market in China goes up additionally about 17, 20%. And Alibaba goes up, I don't know, 60%. And one of the comments on the podcast that I receive is communist.
Really?
So the most important thing is like, you're always going to have haters. You're always going to have haters, people that are excessively negative. So the important thing is like not to take their opinion into matter. Law of large numbers means you take the majority. The extremes are taken out. Yeah, so when people say I want to silence all my haters, well, that's impossible. You probably will always have haters. That's normal. You feel that you want to silence them, and it's possible to silence them, that's impossible. That's impossible. You're always going to have haters. Yeah, it's normal. It's abnormal not to have haters.
You felt the same thing back then when you received the comment?
No, I started to think about it. And then I decided, I was like, Nikolay, you're looking at this wrong. Like, this comment should be taken in the context of what other people commented and how many people liked it. So you have, I don't know, you have like 1,000 people like the podcast, and one person commented communist. Why you look at that one comment?
Yeah.
So yeah, the idea is like, you feel things should be perfect, but again, everything is good and bad inherently. It's practically impossible to get absolute majority on any topic. That's what Buddhism says. Like everything is inherently, a little bit of good is always in everything that's bad, and a little bit of bad is in everything that's good. Yes, like there should always be a opposite opinion, a minority report, a minority opinion, however small, and we want absolute majority. That's extremely rare, probably unsustainable. Yeah, you should look at the changes in the majority shifts and what's the overall kind of shift. But yes, you always have haters. You always have people that don't like you. Yeah, that's normal. People like you, that would be the abnormal. Yeah. The resolve really arises of this is what you feel is probably wrong. What you feel is probably wrong if you're not feeling the humor or some sort of a lightness. Oh, that's really bad. And the way towards it is to just explore. Just explore. It's you tendencies to make decisions very, very fast. And there are patterns that could tell you how things should be done. Yeah, just look at it. Parents look at their children competing. They don't care who wins. They enjoy the game. What's the last time you enjoyed a game if you're rooting diehard for one team? About to kill yourself. Pushing, screaming, and that would be useful if you're at the stadium, but what the hell are you doing? and this is very important. It's that you stay calm. So you don't even if you feel attraction or aversion of something, you're telling yourself stories that are untrue. You're telling yourself a story. One of the stories that you tell yourself isn't true is, for example, like buying a new car. Buying a new car is very nice, but it comes with the most expensive kilometer or mile in your life. When you drive the car out of the dealership, you immediately lose 5 to 7, maybe even 10%. So you enjoy driving a brand new car, but driving a brand new car always comes with the most expensive, kilometer. But you don't think about it. So when you see the brand new car and say, "Oh, that's really the new model," you should always ask, "Yeah, but it had the most expensive mile."
10%.
Depreciation. And the important thing is to consistently do it. It's like your nervous system, your monkey, will always point you to how nice this new car is. And you should always insist, yes. And it comes with like really big depreciation the first kilometer we drive it.
That's the joke.
That's the joke. That's the joke. Yeah, and the jokes that you could tell yourself are countless. The most important thing is like how you feel. Yeah, so it's like everything is good and bad. Like the good car is good, it smells good, but yeah, the bad is the depreciation, and you never add it. You always subtract and say, that's a good car. That's a good car, and suddenly, all new cars become new cars, good cars, as if they don't have depreciation. All of them did. All of them depreciated immediately. This 5 to 7% after being driven out the lot. Yeah, so this is the resolve. Like if something attracts you, you really thinking about the brand new car with no depreciation. If something averts you, scares you, it's because you don't know it. Because you don't know it. Maybe it's normal. Yeah. You get better with time. You get better with time. You find the jokes easier. You kind of not be scared or that reluctant to learn about things that scare you. But the important thing is just to start somewhere. Where do you shake hands in the middle of the way? And maybe sometimes you're not going to be able to find the joke. But that doesn't mean that the joke is not there. And this is shout out. This is a real example. Shout out to Mr. Ninov, who we're going to be using for this example. This is a real example. So Mr. Ninov is one of the traders that I communicate with. And I was on vacation. And he made a spelling mistake, and he asked me, "How is your vacancy, Mr. Stoykov?" And I said, "I don't have vacancy. My position is not vacant, but my vacation is good." I laugh out loud, and yeah, he acknowledged it. And then he sent me a message and said, "Are you back?" And I says, "Yes. I'm no longer vacant." To which he replied, "That's not funny, Mr. Stoykov." I said, "On the contrary, Mr. Ninov, it's funny. It's just not funny to you."
Yeah, for you it was.
Yeah, the important thing is things like that happen. Yeah, so law of large numbers says if you don't feel something's funny, that doesn't mean a lot. If most people find it funny, it's probably funny. It's just not funny to you. Doesn't mean it's not funny. You find something offensive, well, do most people find it offensive? If you just find it offensive, but most people don't, then it's not offensive. Yeah, law of large numbers has very interesting things. You over-concentrate on what you feel, what you experience, or what you think. And the truth is in the law of large numbers. What majority of people think is probably true. Yes. But I think that's it for me today, unless you want...
Just one question. Have you actually managed to... you said the three things. The last one that people should work on was the being rushed into the decisions.
Yeah, yes.
You being a Buddhist for so many years.
It gets better. So it's this is the important thing is that you immediately, your first instinct is to look for what other people think. So it's like, you feel what you feel. You're ready to make a decision. The important thing is not to make a decision until you find out what other people feel. So we're not denying what you feel. We're not denying like what you experience. We're just avoiding making the final decision. And this is kind of like, and the reason is because your nervous system is limited, your experience is limited, and your view may be limited. For example, we have a friend that went to the Maldives, and he said the Maldives, Nikolay, paradise on earth. I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be typhoons. And I go on the internet and find out that there's actually a really good location for the Maldives. And it's apparently there's not that many typhoons, but there's plenty of bad weather. So this is like the whole thing. You go to Maldives for for 1 week, and it's paradise-like. But apparently, if you check the law of large numbers and what other people have experienced, they've experienced bad weather 4 months out of the year. So your experience could be correct, it's just not long enough. And this is like the most important thing. Is like the phenomena you experience and what you experience is absolutely correct, but they're just not that long. And you're intrinsically inclined to make a decision on even short period when there's a lot of unknowns. And there are plenty of examples in history. One of my favorite is Magellan, passing the Pacific Ocean, not experiencing any storms, and calling it the Pacific for 30 days. This is his experience, but this is a large ocean. Let's wait before we call it the Pacific, because it becomes an oxymoron. Yeah. So America, in discovering of America, Columbus thought he discovered passage to India. It was actually decades later that people realized that, hey, this is not the passage to India. This is totally new world. So rush to judgment. So the new things, you're probably going to be making mistakes. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes time to really find out the nature of the things. What you've experienced, what Magellan experienced in the Pacific is correct. It was Pacific. It's just not the nature. It's one of the biggest oceans and has the biggest storms. Yeah, just wait. There was nobody to ask, so likely they'll come back again and then name it. Yeah, that's a very interesting oxymoron. A very good example of rushed judgment. 30 days is not long enough.
For the Pacific, not long enough, yeah.
Yeah.
Had you spent more time.
For anywhere. You spend 30 days in the Maldives and you think you know what living in the Maldives is. That's not true. You go to New York for a week. This is not what New York is like. Your experience for that week in New York is going to be very subjective and probably not biased, not unbiased, the objective experience of what New York is. Yeah, so there's a lot of randomness, and you could experience some very nice people in New York.
Doesn't mean it's a friendly city.
Yeah. So many people will want to live together.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and see you on the next one.
Yes, like and subscribe. Thank you.